I definitely uncorked the bottle of book buying, and there's no getting that cork back in there. I don't remember what their names are. The next book I listened to is it's their other book. Hi everyone, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. Today's video is going to be the rest of what I read in the month of April. So one of the last videos I filmed, and yes, it's been a while, was a check-in that I did earlier this month. So I read 11 books all in this month, a lot of audio, some physical. And the first video, which I will link for you guys in case you missed it, I talked about Pep Talks for Writers by Grant Faulkner, which is a writing pep talk book, duh. That was a good one. Separation Anxiety by Laura Zigman. I did the audiobook of this, loved it. Little Secrets by Jennifer Hillier. I read the arc of it. It is out already. I have my hard copy of it that I had pre-ordered. Loved it. You guys know I'm obsessed with her. All Your Twisted Secrets by Diana Urban, which is a YA locked room mystery. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And Reputation by Sarah Shepard, which she is the author who created Pretty Little Liars. This is an adult mystery that takes place on a college campus, and I loved it for all its frothy, soapy fun. So if you want to hear more about all of my thoughts on all of these books, check out that other video. But today we are going to talk about the other 6 books I read, and all in, I'm looking at my list, they were great, except for one, and then another. But let's talk about them. So we're gonna start strong, and the next book I actually wound up listening to is The Hand on the Wall by Maureen Johnson. And this is the 3rd book in the Truly Devious series. It is the final book in the series. And I was going to buy it, and then I was gonna try and get it from the library to read, and it was like a huge long wait list, and you guys know that I was not buying books, which has changed, but I was able to get the audiobook of this through Hoopla, and I listened to it, and I loved it. So, hard to talk about the book in and of itself because it is the 3rd in a trilogy, but basically, Truly Devious, which is, I want to say it came out maybe like 3 years ago now, but I just discovered it at the end of last year, is a mystery set at an elite boarding school in Vermont. And our protagonist, Stevie, is a true crime, just obsessive, I just love her. She's a great, great, great protagonist. And she is obsessed with this case that happened in the 30s at this boarding school. And the whole trilogy of the book has the mystery that takes place in the 30s, which is the headmaster's wife and daughter were kidnapped. And there's a murder, and there's another student who's murdered at the time. And his daughter's never found, and there's some unsolved pieces of it, and somebody sort of went down for the murder, but it was sort of like, it was like the Lindbergh baby type of like that level of crazy kidnapping, sort of insanity at the time. And then in the present day, Stevie comes to school to solve that murder, and no shock, some stuff starts to happen while she's there. And this book just, all 3 books tie together great. There's so many wonderful characters. There's dual timelines. It's absolutely worth getting, worth reading. I am almost, if I kind of had it together better, and I mean, like, even on a good day, I don't totally have it together, never mind with everything that's going on right now. I would love to go back and read all 3 of them kind of in a row, and now sort of go back and look for clues that were planted, because Maureen Johnson did plot them all out at the same time, so everything was completely intentional. Everything was thought out. This was not like some TV shows we see where you can tell that they have no idea where the story is going. But I would highly recommend these. I think they are totally appropriate for adults, for YA. It's sort of one of those universal books where I got lost in it. I didn't feel out of my age range, and I just loved it. I love the writing, I love the characters, smart, funny, well done, love it. The next book I want to talk about is one that has been on my list forever, and I've actually owned it forever and haven't read it, and it's Defending Jacob by William Landay. And Apple TV has, I want to say it's like an 8-part miniseries of this book, and it was the perfect catalyst to kick me into gear to actually finish reading or actually start and finish reading the book. And there are 4 episodes of the show that are out now. I love it. I might even do a separate video about it, but it so far is totally true to the book. Chris Evans is the dad, and after Knives Out, I'm on a Chris Evans kick. But anyway, defending Jacob. So this is one of those books that I feel like it's a little bit hard to categorize, in that I would say it is a mystery, legal, family drama. So the core of this book is Jacob is a 14-year-old boy. This is set in Newton, Massachusetts, which is right outside Boston, which I didn't even realize till I started reading it, which I love, because you guys know I love Boston and I used to live there and I went to school there. But anyway, so one of Jacob's classmates is found murdered in the woods, which is like a shortcut that a lot of the kids take to go to school. And Jacob winds up getting arrested for the murder. And his father, Andy, was an ADA, and he obviously gets kicked off the case because of the conflict of interest. But he is highly motivated to prove that his son is innocent. And this is really about, it's interesting in that there's a murder, there is a full trial part to this. So this is a heavy legal thriller, but you don't see the investigation from the police perspective. You see it from the father's perspective. And the book is written from the father's perspective. And he is out to prove that his son is innocent and to find out who really did it. So it is complicated. Like, again, it's very family heavy, but in a good way. And I love legal thrillers. I haven't read them in a long time, and I'm kind of like, I've been dipping in and out a little bit lately. So I was loving the trial part of this as well, but I thought it was really well done. There's definitely parts where it moves a little bit slower. I wound up reading part of it and doing part of it on audio, because one of the things I am doing in quarantine, we're able to get out and exercise and go for walks here, is I've just been listening to audiobooks like crazy. So when I would go for a walk, I would listen to some of the audiobook, and then when I would come home, I would read the book. But I really enjoyed it. I bought this book when it came out, which is why I have the hardcover of it. So I've had this since like 2012. I don't know what took me so long, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I have read some reviews where people said it is slow, and I can see where people say that, but it is really, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of levels and depth and a lot that's going on here, but I thought it was really well done. And like I said, the TV show, at least the first 4 episodes, are very true to the book, which I'm excited about. And I think the TV show is so well done and really captures these characters and what they're going through. So I'm hugely recommending this one too. The next book I listened to is Dead to Her by Sarah Pinborough. So I read Behind Her Eyes pretty recently, and I really enjoyed it. I know this is divisive, we could talk about it for days, but I enjoyed it. I was in for the ride. I thought it was an enjoyable reading experience. Take it or leave it. The ending definitely has split feelings from people, but I liked it. So I was excited to do more Sarah Pinborough. But this book, I do not enjoy saying negative things about a book because it just pains me. But this book it was not for me. I listened to the entire thing. I did do the audiobook. So I will say props for the audiobook, because this takes place in the South. So there's like some good Southern accents. There's a whole mess of characters in this. So it did take me a little bit to sort of get sort of the secondary characters straight. But there's a lot that goes into this book, and I stuck with it because I wasn't sure where it was going to go. And I kind of feel like it never really went anywhere. So I was disappointed in it. And it didn't work for me. So this book takes place in Savannah, Georgia. And this is like a whole bunch of family money rich people doing crappy things. And this will be a theme in another book that I read this month. And we have 2 protagonists. So we have Marcy, who is the second wife of this guy Jason, whose family is connected down there. They're all kind of part of the Savannah society. And another much older gentleman of the Savannah society returns from this trip to London. So his wife had passed away, I think like a year ago, and he comes home with this woman, Keisha, who is now his wife, who I think is like 40 years younger than him. And the whole town is like obviously super suspect. Everybody thinks she's a gold digger. And Marcy is basically super jealous because she was the token second wife in town, but now she's been displaced by this woman who's like 15 years younger than her. And there's just a whole mess of stuff that goes on. And this is one of these books where, like, I would say nothing happened until like 60% of the way in. So like our inciting incident took forever. And it's like, I kind of knew it was going to happen eventually, but we could have gotten there much sooner. There was so much, I wouldn't even call it buildup, because it wasn't even like suspenseful buildup. There was just like so much stuff. And then the thing, and then it still wasn't really suspenseful. So it pains me to say this. I really did not enjoy this book. The ending felt a little too cliche to me. Nothing was really surprising. Nothing was really gripping me. It was a curiosity factor. And again, I was going on some super long walks. This is great entertainment in my ear. So it was like listening to a soap opera, but it wasn't thrillery or suspenseful or anything to me. So the cover is beautiful. I did not enjoy this book. The next book I actually listened to, but I own it, so I will hold it up here. And it is Goodnight Nobody by Jennifer Weiner. And I have owned this book for a really long time. I have read it a bunch of times. The spine is crazy cracked. There's so many dog-eared pages. I absolutely adore this book. And I was just sort of craving a little bit of the familiar after the last book. And this book is one that I talked about in one of my videos about like mysteries that aren't bloody or violent kind of things, because it's something that some people had asked about for recommendations. And this is like a woman's fiction mystery perfection in a book. And I wound up, like I said, listening to the audio of this. The audio of this is fantastic as well. It kind of almost made me love it more. And the main character is Kate. So Kate lives in the suburbs with her husband. They have 3 kids and they moved from New York City. And Kate basically like doesn't fit in. She never wanted to move. She was like happy to be where she was, but like her husband kind of feels like they need to like fit in and be seen a certain way, and he still works in the city and she should stay home and be the stay-at-home mom and have the big house in Connecticut and like hang out with the other moms and go to yoga and do like all the stereotypical things he thinks suburban moms do. And she's so just not loving it. So she loves her kids, but she's just like, she used to work in a magazine and she had a life and a career and she had friends and she had things to do, and she just doesn't want to be in just the mommy group. Like she wants to do more. She wants to be more for her kids and have more to her life. And she's just really kind of fish out of watery. So when one of the moms in the mommy group winds up getting murdered, Kate has found purpose in her life and she decides to investigate this murder basically. And it's so wonderfully done. And there's so many other characters and so many other levels to this. But like one of the best characters in this book is her best friend Janie, who she has known since she graduated college. They met when they were getting their first job. And the narrator of the audiobook who does Janie just nails it completely. I mean, she kind of sounds almost like Sex and the City Samantha in her voice. But she just is like the best friend that every girl absolutely needs, and she's hysterical, I think. And you sort of dip in and out of motherhood and being the wife and being the best friend and trying to find her identity in all of this and getting herself into all sorts of trouble, of course, because she's looking into this murder. And it's very, everybody's got a secret. You know, the neighborhood is full of sort of complications and history and whispers and gossip and all sorts of stuff. And I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. I laughed out loud. There were moments that were heartbreaking to me. I talked about this in, I feel like it might have been an Instagram post that I did rather than my Goodreads review. But this is one of these books that, again, I have read more times than, I don't even know how many times I've read this book, but I still get something out of it every time. I feel like as I'm in different stages of my life, I relate to different things that are in it, but there are still moments when it's not really done in 2 time frames, but we do get sort of present day, and then we get like some of the past of her and Janie and how they became friends. So we do get some of them in their early 20s, and I can like still totally relate to that part of it too. But it's been a long time since I've read a Jennifer Weiner book. I shudder to say I forgot how great of a writer that she is. But again, it's smart, it's funny. It's not like hardcore mystery, but there's enough mystery to it that I think it qualifies in the mystery category, but I think it's just super well done. And if you're looking for just a fun book to get lost in that will also make you laugh and also sort of make you feel some things, I would highly recommend it. And I would highly recommend the audiobook of it, which again was just out of the park, out of the park. The next book I listened to is The Last Time I Saw You by Liv Constantine. And this is a sister duo, Lynn and Val Constantine, who write as Liv. And they wrote The Last Mrs. Parrish, which I loved, devoured, loved it, all in, dark, messed up, had me going. I was down for the ride with that book. So my expectations for this book were super high. And the book did not meet my expectations. So this also pains me. So much like Dead to Her, this is about a bunch of super rich people in the South who do super shady things. And I am like in it to win it for a soapy, drama-y kind of a book. Like, I don't need every book to be Gone Girl. Like, I don't need every book to be just blow me out of the water. Sometimes I'm just in it for the ride and the fun and all of that good stuff. But this book just like, it didn't totally make sense to me in the fact that like, so this is about a woman named Kate. So Kate's mother is murdered. Like page 1, we're at her mom's funeral. And Kate is a doctor. I want to say she's like a pediatric cardiosurgeon or something. She works with her dad in their practice down south. And she is obviously devastated because her mom has been murdered. Who wouldn't be? And they don't know who did it. And at the like end of the reception, maybe, this is like chapter 1 type stuff. This is like the whole setup for the book. She winds up getting this anonymous text message or email that's basically like, your mom's dead and you're next. So we know that somebody is out to get her and she is freaked out, as she should be. So what it transpires is sort of like, it's not like this high octane suspense thrillery twisty turny thing. Like, it very much felt like an episode of Dynasty meets Pretty Little Liars, because I love PLL, you know I love PLL. But she keeps getting these like sinister-y type of text messages or things. And I listened to the audiobook, so I do feel like maybe it would be a little bit different if I had read it, but it's like she would get like this creepy anonymous message that's like, I'm coming for you, Kate, or like, I'm gonna murder you like I did your mother. And she's like, just like screams and I don't know what to do. Like, she just completely unravels from the get-go. And her husband kind of doesn't know what to do with her. And her dad doesn't really know what to do with her. And she has like a 5-year-old daughter and she's freaked out for her kid, which all makes sense. And then her best friend from boarding school and college named Blair shows up, and her and Blair had like a huge falling out in their early 20s, and we eventually find out why. But Blair basically is like there, and she was like, I'm with you. I will help you figure this out. I am not leaving your side until we figure out who did this to you. So we get sort of back and forth Blair and Kate's perspectives. We get some of the past, we get some of the present. And I think part of the problem is I just never connected to Kate. She went from like 0 to completely unraveled within minutes. And I felt like there wasn't enough to support her complete downward spiral. And I'm not saying getting a text message that I'm here to murder you would not unravel somebody, but she's sort of presented as like this like super smart Johns Hopkins. She's a successful doctor. She's got this husband who may or may not be sketchy. She's got this beautiful kid, this huge house. She's got the nanny and the cook and the everything and the dad. And she completely just like falls apart. And she's just awful to like everyone around her. And everyone seems to be like kind of cool with it. And there's sort of like allusions to the fact that she had like issues years ago, but none of it felt substantiated. And I really liked Blair. I really liked the best friend. But it just, the whole thing, it felt just, it was too much. It was like a hardcore soap opera. I didn't feel like any like like The Last Mrs. Parrish was great. Like I thought it was so well done. There were so many great twists to that. Like I just loved the characters. I thought they were so well developed. I think part of I just did not connect with Kate at all. So like I kind of didn't care that someone wanted to kill her because I kind of found her super annoying and was like, you go, like you get her, make this book stop, which makes me feel really bad too. So I would say from an entertainment factor, it was fine. I think maybe if you're newer to thrillers, it's probably fine. It just didn't do it for me. Like Last Mrs. Parrish was here, this was kind of here. I think it could have been better. The ending felt contrived. There was like too much stuff. It's hard to talk about without spoiling any of it, but it just didn't really work for me, unfortunately. So we're gonna bring this home on a high note, and I read The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley, and I loved it. This is isolated mystery, a whole bunch of friends that went to Oxford together that go, and somebody's plus one. They went to this remote estate in Scotland, and every New Year's Eve they go away, and it's tradition with this group of friends. And I want to say they're like in their early 30s at this stage, so it's like 10 years since Oxford. And they wind up getting snowed in and basically stuck there. And we know from the start that one of them is dead. And I thought it was great. I thought this is exactly how you do the suspense and the mystery. I talked about this last month when I read The Last Affair by Margot Hunt, where somebody is murdered and in chapter 1 they tell you who it is, so there was like no suspense. So all you know, you don't even know if it's a man or a woman who's dead. You just know that somebody's dead at the beginning of this book, and you go all the way through until you find out what happens. I thought it was smart. I loved just how crappy some of these characters were to each other. Like, it's definitely a bunch of unlikable people, and you know I love unlikable people doing unlikable things. And I thought it was clever. I really enjoyed Lucy Foley's writing. I don't know why it took me so long to read this book. This is another one that I've had for a while, and I don't know what's wrong with me. But I thought it was really well written. I really enjoyed the mystery. I loved the relationships between the friends. I loved that whole idea of, you know, they were all friends at a certain time in their life, and they are still friends, but they have changed and drifted and things have happened. And sort of that idea that you are who people want you to be or expect you to be about who you were when you were like 18 or 19 years old. And even though they have grown and changed and evolved, some of them don't see each other that way. And there are secrets and there are just things going on with these people. And I just thought it was great. I absolutely thought it was great. It was one of these books where like anybody could have been the dead body and anybody could have done it, because there was just so much messed up stuff between these friends that you just sort of didn't know which way it was gonna go. So huge fan. So that is going to do it for everything I did read in April. I totally forgot to mention that I did DNF 2 books for 2 different reasons. So the first book I DNF'd was We Told 6 Lies by Victoria Scott. This was another YA thriller. I was like in the groove after reading All Your Twisted Secrets and Hand on the Wall, and this one just didn't work for me. So I didn't get that far into it. I did the audiobook of it, and this is a book, so I had read some mixed reviews on it, and it's like a guy's girlfriend goes missing, and the cops just think she's missing, but like he thinks something bad happened to her, but I just couldn't get into it. This is the one where like his name is Cobain, and all the characters have these ridiculous names, and I quit on it pretty early on and won't be going back to that one. And then the other one is Death in the Family by Tessa Wiegert. And this is another one that is like isolated mystery. There is a murder, rich family, but I'm cool with it. Somebody is murdered. They kind of like live out on an island and the cops go out there, and I'm pretty sure they get stuck there, but I haven't gotten that far yet because I was listening to the audiobook of this. Let me back it up a minute. I read about this book on Crime by the Book, Abby's blog, which I love. And if you guys don't follow her or follow her on Instagram, you should, because she's terrific and she gives so many great book recommendations. So I saw it there because I'm in the I'm not gonna buy books mode when I read about it. Found it online, started to listen to it, decided I was loving it so much that I absolutely needed to read it. Absolutely is actually a word. So I wound up buying it. and I'm going to start reading it now. So I'm going to start reading it tonight. So I was totally enjoying it. One thing I will say, and I don't know if this has been fixed because I haven't gone back to check it, but I was listening to it on Hoopla and I was so super confused, and I figured out why. So it goes chapter 1, chapter 3, chapter 2 on Hoopla. And I completely was like lost when we got to what I didn't realize was chapter 3. So we went from 1 to 3 and I was like, man, like this is really like leaving a lot of mystery going on here, because we're like talking about stuff that I don't even know who these people are. And then when we got to the next chapter and it was chapter 2, I realized it's completely out of order for some reason. But anyway, I'm super excited for this book, so stay tuned and I will tell you all about it when I finish it. So now that's really it for everything that I read in April. And all in a good month. Yes, there are a couple duds, but like it happens, and it still pains me to say bad things about books, but you're here to hear what I think about stuff, so I'm gonna tell you. So that's that, but let me know what you guys read, if you read any of these, favorite books of the month, if you had any duds this month, if you're reading at all, if you're reading a ton more because you're home, just let me know all the stuff down below and we will talk about it down there. But I hope you guys are doing well, and I have been off my game. I am trying to get back on it. I may even do a video that talks about being off my game, so we'll see what happens. But I hope you guys are doing really well, and I appreciate you spending some of your time with me, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye everybody.